So, Estelle Parsons, you returned to the world of Roseanne after 20 years.
Oh,
Um, when you first heard that they were going to be doing this revival, what were your expectations like for it?
my expectations were exactly what happened, that they would ask me, well, because I saw Laurie and she said, have they called you yet? And I said, no, she told me about it. And so since she said that, I figured I would get a call and probably resume what I'd been doing before.
Mhm. Well, I mean, how are some of the ways that the role of Beverly, how has she changed over these years? I mean, what were some of the things, some of the new things that you wanted to bring to her that the writers brought to her?
Yeah, well, I was a little concerned because I work in the theater all the time and I read a lot of plays. People send me, "Oh, you have to play this part," and they're very often about someone who's getting dementia. I would say that's a lot of it, or they're just kind of outrageous, like this one about a woman who has a baby at 95, and they're kind of crazy stuff or off the mark, I would say. So I thought, I'm not going to go back there. I want to see the script ahead of time because I don't want to go back there if they're going to make me into one of these people that I know is not what old age is all about. So I have to tell you, they exceeded my wildest expectations with this business that Roseanne has multiple sexual partners in multiple parts of the old age home. So, I mean, that was a bit of a shock. Even
Right.
though I had read one play that had a woman in an old age home with a boyfriend, and that's a very good, funny comedy. But this was, I mean, really crazy. And so she gets kicked out because she's given two of these partners gonorrhea.
Right. You bring up the fact that I mean you didn't want to do what is normally portrayed as being what it's like to be an old person, which I'm sure is written by mostly young people who have not had experience as older persons.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I mean, one of the episodes that you do, No Country for Old Women, is of course about what happens when our parents get older and we have to start taking care of them. Can you talk a bit about that episode?
Whew. Uh, well, it's kind of terrible, isn't it? In my family, I've never had that. For some reason, my mother and father managed to grow old and die quite. I wouldn't say comfortably. Nobody finds it very comfortable getting old, but there was never any sense. I was begging after my father died. I was begging my mother to come and live with us, and she refused to do that. She was going to stay where she lived, and that was that. And she did, and then she just died very simply in a few days. So I had no sense of what went on in the Roseanne thing, which was that none of them wanted me to live with them. And that would be a terrible thing to find that out. I have two daughters and a son. And that would be a terrible thing to find out if my kid said to me, if I said, I really have to live with you now, and my kids said, no, we don't want you. But of course, I had had money as Roseanne's mother, but the money went to the home. And then when they kicked me out, they didn't give me my money. Now, maybe we could have a lawsuit about that. I don't know. But I had no money and nowhere to go except her house or Laurie's house or Becky's house. So there I was, and none of them wanted me. So what would you do except climb out the window and have a nice jump?
Right. Well, it is something. I mean, it is a problem in this country. I mean, the way that we treat our elders and our parents after they get to a certain age.
Really?
And
Do you
well,
think it's a problem?
well, in my own experience that I've seen
Oh,
in my own life,
yeah.
um, and I mean, it is brought up. I mean, one of the options is to send her to the county facility, which is, of course, not ideal at all.
Yeah.
I mean, can you talk a bit about that?
Well, I haven't seen this county facility. I don't know what it is, but I imagine it's someplace like those old mental institutions where they just drug you and keep you quiet until you go, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm a person who's kind of interested in everything wherever I go. So perhaps I could find my way around that county facility. I mean, I'm looking on the bright side of it, because if these kids don't want me at all, what am I doing there? But it's a comedy, so what can you do? When it ends, I am going to live with Laurie, and Laurie, being a life coach, is going to make a real effort to find a relationship with her mother. And then when I say, okay, that's fine, but what are we going to do when we start fighting again? And of course, she has no answer for that. I could get married. I mean, if I have these multiple partners, I mean, if we're going to think where I could go on that show, I could get married. I have Chris Lloyd for a boyfriend, and I have other boyfriends at the home as well, apparently.
Hmm.
So if I'm in that mood, I mean, I think I could probably find a partner. I would take that route myself.
Hmm. Well, you bring up the fact that multiple boyfriends, among them is Christopher Lloyd. Wonderful surprise seeing him in here. Can you talk a bit about working with him and your scenes
Oh
together?
yeah, I love Chris. We did a play together, Mornings at 7, quite a long time ago when he was in New York. He keeps working in the theater, I think he's from Vermont, and he works on the odd summer when he isn't busy, with all that other stuff he does. He comes back and does a theater piece at that Vermont theater. So he's a terrific guy. I like him a lot. He's a real loner, but
Right.
he's wonderful. So it'd be nice if we continue to have a relationship. I have no idea where they'll go, the writers. I think they're awfully good. I
Hmm.
just think as an actor, I always think I'm only as good as my writers, because I know that from a long life of acting all kinds of material. So they are really good, the writers. It'll be interesting to see where they send us.
Jumping back into it after 20 years and resuming these relationships that you'd had with Roseanne and Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman and everybody
Yeah.
else. Can you talk a bit about that? I mean, was it just like, putting
Oh,
on an old.
it was like after a half hour, an hour, everybody felt like they'd never left, that it was all the same. I think it was quite amazing because everybody came back. There was nobody you had to think, oh, they're not here. Everybody came back, and that was really the first amazing thing. And then, of course, we had all seen each other from time to time in life, because John's in the theater sometimes, Laurie's in the theater sometimes, I'm in the theater all the time. So, and Becky too lives in New York. So we've all been in touch off and on. So it wasn't like a blind shock. But frankly, I thought we all looked the same. I didn't see any difference. And I guess nobody else did, because, there we all were saying, have we really left? Has there really been 20 years here? Because we're just back doing same old, same old.
I have that a lot when I look at old videos of myself and my friends. I think, has it really been that long ago? Because I don't feel any different.
Yeah, I suppose we have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Well, the kids grew up, didn't they?
Yes.
And
Age.
Michael Fishman has changed a lot. So you could see from him, he was always a little kid, as I recall, and
Mhm.
now he's this grown up man. So he's changed a lot.
Mhm.
But the other two, they're just sweet. They're really sweet. It's a wonderful company. Everybody has a good time. Everybody's talented. It's just great.
The success of the show, I think, surprised a lot of people. I know that there were, people like myself who had grown up with the original and wanted to see what the Connors were up to after 20 years.
Yeah.
But it had a big success aside from that. How do you account for that? I mean, why do you think the show proved to be so widely viewed by so many people?
Uh, I think because through its whole run, it was always kind of a bubbly thing, and they were always attempting to confront or at least talk about things that nobody else was talking about. But it's really funny. I live in New York, but I get a consistent stream of fan mail, and a consistent stream of people on the street who have continued to watch Roseanne in those 20 years. And these are perhaps some of these, they were surprised that so many younger people watched it, but they have watched Roseanne all these 20 years. They're more or less committed to, I meet people who say, I never miss it. I would never miss it. It's on blah, 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 and I would never miss it. So there is a whole group of people all over the country who have watched it, who are watching it again. And then you take them into account. But also, I think that I'm not a TV watcher, but people say that it has gone in such another direction, TV. What's on TV has gone in such another direction that this is like a breath of fresh air. In the first place, it's done with the studio audience, you know. So there is a certain liveliness to the half hour. In the second place, I'm not sure there are many half-hour shows left. So it seems very quick. You start seeing it and it's funny and it's over.
Well, certainly there aren't that many that are filmed in front of a live studio audience anymore. I mean, most of them are single cams, like dramas nowadays. Can you talk about performing in front of the live audience? You are, as you said, a theater person.
Yeah.
So is it that much different than doing live theater, performing in front of a live audience?
No, it's not that much different, I don't feel. I mean, it's terribly nerve-wracking. And of course, the writers are making changes right up to the last minute. So, I mean, it's not age and I can't remember lines because that's not an issue, but it's that everybody is hoping they'll remember what they're supposed to do next. And there are these people out there screaming and hollering, you know, and having a high old time. So you feel you feel things in your performing that you don't feel when you do one of those other shows where it's just a camera. You know, you have that other thing of all those people out there because they are very vocal.
Well, does it, in a sense, I guess, help with the comedy? I mean, hearing those reactions live and seeing what the audience is responding to?
It's funny because, you know, they ooh and they ah now. I don't remember that from before, but they go, oh, you know. And I don't remember they were so vocal before. But don't you think people in audiences everywhere are much more vocal than they used to be? It used to be a lot of hand clapping. Now it's, even for me, woo, 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 you know.
I do hear that, yeah, even in movie theaters nowadays.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a couple of just questions about your career overall. You've had a long career in theater. I think you've gotten about 4 Tony nominations in your lifetime. So can you talk about what that recognition meant for you in your career, getting nominated by the Tonys?
Yeah. When I started out, the first award I got was a Theater World Award for Best Newcomer. And I didn't go. And my agent called me up and said, "What's the matter with you? Why aren't you here? Why aren't you here? They're celebrating you." And I said, "I don't believe in that. I don't want my ego to get too big. I don't want to get a swelled head. Pride is a sin. You know, I'm from New England." So I hauled out all these things and said, "I'm just not going to pay any attention if I ever get any kind of award for my work. I'm never going to pay attention." Well, that lasted about 1 minute. They said, "Get your ass down here and pick up this award." So, and then of course it's fun. It's so much fun, these award programs. It's fun to be nominated. It's fun to be there. But they mean much more now than they did through my whole lifetime. They really did not sort of define your career. Now, that's how you're defined, as the person who won the Academy Award or the person who has had 5 Tony nominations. They put those right in the ads and everything now, as if to say, if you're an actor, it's not enough. You've got to be proven by the rest of the world that you're super. It's like it was enough to be a star in the old days. Then all of a sudden you had to be a superstar, right? You know, everything has gotten blown up. Don't you feel that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, working on this side of the business, it certainly is. I should mention that you did win an Obie for your theater work as well, in addition to the Tonys. Speaking of the Oscar win, you won for Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
That was a movie that, 51 years later, people are still talking about and still watching and still.
I got all this fan mail. People came to my house yesterday, down in the lobby. Please come down to the lobby. 6 of your fans are here.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that was in 1967 we made that movie. And they were young people. They lived in Belgium and in Brooklyn, and they came to have me sign their Bonnie and Clyde pictures. Isn't that amazing? Well, it's a classic, I guess. And if people are interested in film, they're bound to know about it. And I must say that was a terrific performance I did. I was really at a high point for myself and my feelings about my acting, because I was working with Arthur Penn, and he changed my life completely. I had thought, oh, I'm in the wrong business. Why do I bother? I could do a million things, there isn't only one thing I can do in life. I can do a lot of things. And I was doing a lot of things in my life. But all of a sudden, I worked a certain way with Arthur Penn, and I just thought, oh, yeah, this is it. This is it. This is where I belong. And that's why I think that performance carried with it that extra little charge. I can only say that because that was 67. Now it's 2018. And when I see it like at a festival or something, I think, wow, look at that performance. If I had to recreate it, I doubt it would be quite as terrific as it was.
Well, I mean, it came at just about the right time, this movie. Changed filmmaking and infusing it with more European style and frankness about violence and sex and more naturalistic acting. I mean, did this little ragtag company of actors and filmmakers, did you know at the time you were making something that was daring or that was going to have the kind of...
Warren and Arthur were very much down on their luck at the time, which is why Warren got such a very good deal with Warner Brothers for it. And so nobody had really any hopes about anything. Several other directors had looked at it and hadn't done anything with it and stuff like that. And Faye was just starting out. Gene Hackman wanted to get in the movies. And but people, Norma, who was the wardrobe person, because I got my wardrobe out of an 18-wheeler that came. I had Dorothy Malone's Jodhpurs and Barbara Stanwyck's blouse. And she kept saying to me, you're going to get an Academy Award for this. You're going to get an Academy Award for this. But the idea that this movie would ever get anywhere. And then, of course, when it came out, it got a terrible review from the New York Times. And that guy eventually got fired for being so wrong about Bonnie and Clyde. And then all of a sudden, Joe Morgenstern changed his mind and said, hey, wait a minute, I'm looking at this movie afresh. And Warren just ran with that. You see, I don't think movie producers are often like Warren. I think it's good for movie people to know this. He was determined to make that movie succeed. People are like that in the theater now. The marketing is the biggest number on the budget, But I don't think the individual movie makers follow their movies enough and insist. Like, he would go around to the movie theaters and be sure the sound was the way it should be. Stuff like that. And that's how you get successful, You got to have that real passion for what you do. Don't you think?
I do think that, yes. And I think that's why that movie has survived and influenced so many people after half a century. So
half a century.
Well, Estelle Parsons, thank you so much, and congratulations on your return to Roseanne. I hope we see a lot more of Beverly in the years to come.
Thank you. I hope so. Good. Wonderful.